Good morning, everyone. This is Corey Babka, monthly Salesforce tips and tricks webinar from the Marks Group. We are looking at doing our normal monthly webinar, which is our tips. We post the tips at the end of the month. About 3 weeks later, we'll put up these webinars, and we do these monthly to kind of walk through those tips directly. Just to go through, just to provide some clarity to the tips, because sometimes it's a little bit tricky. So we do this. If there's any questions, of course, please, by all means, I would just ask that you kind of raise your hand the way that I have on the webinar. That's the best way to handle it. For those that are watching this as a recording, apologies, is obviously not live for you. Hopefully you get some information out of this. But I can always be contacted at Corey@marksgroup.net, COREY@MARKSGROUP.net is my email address. Okay? So any questions, please go ahead and forward that along. All right. So the tips for this month is a little bit more technical than usual. Okay? It's probably not for the faint of heart. We're going to be talking about the Salesforce Workbench, which is something that my developer, we do a little bit of Salesforce work here. I do a lot of the administration. We have a couple other administrators, but I have a developer that does a lot of more things with data migration, Apex code, things like that. She does a lot of these tips, and you've seen her stuff in the past. One of these ones the three that we're talking about today, deal directly with the Salesforce Workbench, which is a true godsend for those that want a data tool that you can't normally get out of Salesforce unless you work with a lot of reports and things like that. But this is actually the one that that we can use to actually query the database, among other things. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually go to a URL that is called, let's see, I just copy this link address. I've got it in our blog post, but it's right here. Okay, so just the login here, and what we do is we get here, and it's just workbench.developerforce.com, which is the login. Okay, we can do sandbox, we can do production. If you have both instances, I'm going to do production. I agree, and then I log in with Salesforce. Okay, it's already in my item here, so now the first time you do it, it will prompt you to allow access, which I've already done at this point. So therefore, it knows who I am. There's a cookie that's already there. Okay. We're going to use this one here to do a bulk download or actually query the database. Like, I look at this one as I'm a SQL guy, right? I've been working with SQL for a long time. I use it for our backend SQL databases and like Goldmine, things like that. So I'm used to it, and that's what finding this here is just amazing to see where I can do it, and it will actually help you write it. So a lot of the times that we're in, we're going to just go here and just do it's an SQL query, right? Truthfully, I'd be lying if I told you what I know what the O is. I'm sure someone watching this video knows exactly what the O is, and I could probably find out what the O is. But structured something query language, is what we're looking at here, okay? And when we go into this, this is where we actually get this SQL Query Builder, is what it is, right? It allows us to kind of look through and see what we want to do. And so I'm just going to make a query. I'm going to actually look into the accounts, and I'm going to search for, this is where I can choose what I want, right? I can say I want maybe like last activity dates, right? I want industry, okay? I want name, okay? Maybe the phone, product version, product, right there. And so I get this, and it allows me to do this whole type of query. I mean, I've got the select industry, last activity. These are the fields from account. Straight SQL is what this is. I can do a sort, and I can do sort by name, right? Okay. And then I can also do, I can filter. So I could say where billing city is equal to, and I could say Philadelphia, and add that in, okay, or add another, right? Billing city equals Plymouth Meeting, right? So this, as you can see, I've got an and. I would have to change this to an or. Okay, those that understand the way that the Boolean would work, I would need this or it's going to fail because there's not two records that would be in that. Okay, I can also say just give me my top 100 if I want, and so that's when you get your first limit 100. It's all in there. Okay, and it's good stuff. Right now, what you have to do is I can do a view as well. You know, like so when I query it, like if I just click query, okay. No records returned. Well, that doesn't make sense. Let's do billing state. Equals New Jersey. We're going to get rid of that other one. Okay. Order by, and then I'm going to get rid of it. I'll make this 1,000 and query this and see what we get. And there's my list, right? So I've got all my records here. There's 23 records in New Jersey, okay, that I have, right? I've got product version, things like that. This is my list, right, which is great, okay? And so I've got this. Now, what I could also do is if I wanted to, I could also just do bulk CSV and do query. And what happens is when I do that, it actually gives me my file. It's right here, okay? I download it, and there's my file. It shows me my CSV, and actually that's a request, sorry. All right. When the batch is complete. I want to do this. See, that just gives me the query. You can see what I'm doing there. I kind of made this a little bit wrong, so I usually do the list, to be honest with you. So if I go back, right, I've got my list here. I can actually do the bulk and that there, deleted archives, whichever. You know, there's your trash can, right? But there's my list. That's what I usually do. I'm not sure what the matrix is, to be truthful with you. But if I do the bulk CSV and do query, I should end up with that batch load again. And there's my batch. And then I look at it here. Batch is completed, 23 records. And let's see, results can be downloaded. I should be able to just do it right from here. I don't know why I'm not getting that. I'll have to check with Prabhat and see what she was doing here. But that's where we got, I mean, we could quickly Google say how do we get there. But this is where if I reload this page, it should tell me something else. I mean, it's already done. Records processes. See, this is already done. Unless it's in my batches. Could be in my batch jobs. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my batches are complete, right? It'll just be a batch. So it should be in here somewhere. I'm not sure why. Not sure why I'm having that kind of a, there's my number of records, batch size, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's where we're looking at these different pieces. I would look at my, not my objects, but I want to look at my data management, right, is where it would be. Batch jobs, export, maybe it's in here. Yeah, see, there isn't anything there. So I'm not really sure. Sorry, I apologize. Makes you look like kind of a ill-informed and unprepared on this one, but that's where I know that she was doing it because I saw her do it the other day, that she was just querying this and it's coming up in a CSV file. Okay, so it's very doable. I would look into it, and you know, I'll look into it as well to make sure that I know what I'm doing. So in case you have any questions or you want to follow up with me, go ahead and ask me how I did it, and we'll be fine. Okay, so that's that was tip number one, just to kind of get us started and tease us a little bit, right? So now what I've got is we've also got data loader, right? Now some people have used data loader before. Some people use the import process, right? Which is what which is out there. You've got you know, if I go into this and I go to my import, you know, you start with your import. There's this one, translation workbench, but there's this one here, the data import wizard that most people use, right? And what you do is you start your import, you launch your wizard, and away we go, and this is what it asks what you want to do, things like that. This one isn't as good as things like data loader, okay? But this one, we can actually use the workbench to do the same type of thing. So we can do an insert, we can do an update, things like that, right? When we were doing it before, we weren't doing it as multiples, we were doing it as what they are. You know, we do it one at a time. So I've got my account. You can do single record if you want, right, where you just put in your value and we can actually put it in here. That's fine. A little bit silly, but maybe with an API, you could do something like that, right? Here from a file, I can choose a file, right? I could go into a test record of some kind, choose it and click next, right? And so from here, you do have the ability to do the inserts. You can also do an update and upsert, okay? You know, and it kind of goes in through there. I'm going to show you how we're going to make a fake one, and we're going to just do it real quick. We're going to do a new lead file. So let's just go into an Excel file, okay? And we're going to call it first name, last name, company, phone. We're going to say John Doe, ABC Inc. LLC, right? 610-852. Right? We're going to go here and say Mary Josephson, and this will be Carter Incorporated, and that's going to be 717, right? Just something like that. Nothing huge. We're just going to do a CSV file. So we're going to call this save as to this PC on my desktop. We're going to call it a test import. And we're going to do a comma delimited. Okay, close it out. So now if I go from here and I say choose file, we're actually going to do this as a lead though. So I'm going to change this to be lead. I'm going to choose my file. It's going to be right here. It's going to be my test import in my desktop. Open it up and say next. So right away what we've got is this mapping. Okay. Owner ID, you can do you could do an ID number that will actually do a mapping that you can use the smart lookup feature, right? For fields that reference other objects. I mean, we're talking about lookups, right? You want to have the IDs, okay? I think that's the best way to do it, right? Standard lookup will be performed if the field's disabled, only standard lookups available, blah, 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 blah. So when you're doing some advanced lookup type stuff, this is where you would go here. But these you can see, because this is a lookup, and it's the only way I have in the lead, it's looking for different pieces, right? And this is owner, so I could say like username if I wanted to, and I would map it to the field. There's the username or the email address, and then boom, I've got my lookup based on that value, okay? Here I've got phone, I've got company. Last name is not in here yet, but it thinks it is. There's last name. These are required. That's why they're red. But I'm going to say, where's my first name field? So I've got first name, last name, company, phone. Right? Those are the 4 fields I've got. I say preview it if I want. That's what the preview is. Okay, just to remind me what columns we've got in there. Right? And then we map the fields. Right? It's going to be mapped just like this. And I say confirm insert. Okay, and now I can do this to download the full results if I want, which is what it just shows me whether it went in or not. This is okay, right? And there it is, success. There's my ID numbers, right? So I know that it went in, which is great, and it was very quick. So if I go back to my sales, my Salesforce, and I look at all open leads for today, or just say just go on my open leads, you're going to see there's Mary and there's John. Okay, I'm going to actually delete those, because we don't need them. And then, sorry, you got to delete her one at a time. Can't do a bulk delete. So, and that's what it would be. So that's your insert. It works very well. Then I would do my contacts to get those in if I was doing account in contact, but in this case I just did leads. Okay, and very good. All right. Okay, so now we go back to our last tip. So our last tip for the day is using data management options with the workbench. This is kind of more so for like lead reassignment, ownership. I'm going to go into the settings here. Okay, walk you through this here. And in here, I've got a lot of different options. Okay, these are just some of the things that I know like Prabhat kind of laid out for me to kind of go over and to keep these in mind. It's probably where you want to go first when you're doing your workbench, when you start working with the workbench. A lot of these are already checked, and these are fine. But you do have, I know if I scroll down a little bit, I've got things like trigger user emails, other emails, you know, resetting a password, new user, other emails for insert. This is what would happen if I'm making the changes within the workbench. Okay, so it's just a few options. We go to the data management side of things. This is where I have the smart lookup. You can either disable that or enable that. I like that. Insert null values, whether you want to do that, right? Whether you want to insert and actually make sure that it puts the blank values in if it isn't empty on your file. Feed tracking, you know, if you don't want feeds to actually do it or you don't want them called out. Default assignment rule, you could do this, for instance, if you're doing lead assignment. I actually like that. I would want that checked. Okay, things along those lines, and that's what it is. Transfer attachments on owner change, transfer open activities on owner change. If you were to do an owner reassignment, like an update or an upsert over here, right, an update of ownership, you would want those certain things to transfer as well. So there's a lot in here that I want you to explore in the settings, and that's what that is there. Okay. Elsewhere, we've got some other, you know, standard custom objects. What is this? We'll just leave that area, right? These are my attributes, right? Got child relationships. A lot of data in here, okay? Here's my, if I wanted, it's almost like this is the ERD for those database guys. You say, here's the attributes for account. You know, what's going on there, right? And this could be very helpful for those programmers. So we've got that. That's the info here. We've got the query. We've got the search. Okay, data. This is a big one here. Migration, deploy, and retrieve. I haven't gone into that just yet. And then these things over here, I'm not really, this is not my wheelhouse, I'll be honest with you. I think some Apex coders, developers, they use these things, but for the general person, you know, that most of my tips and webinars actually relate to, I would look at doing more of the data, insert, update, upsert, delete, right? Queries. These two things here is probably where you're going to get most of the value out of this system. Okay, so sorry to kind of give you a little bit of a confusing part with the outload or the query update before. I'm going to say something here. Workbench CSV output for Salesforce. Sorry, just doing this on my other screen. Yeah, and it's there it is. Salesforce help. How do you do it? And it's looking at me here. Open your browser. Oh, see, they're all crazy. They're talking about inspect elements and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to be doing that. So there's another way. There's a way to export the data. There's a couple different ways from what I'm seeing. I'm not loving their help, right? I've got bulk CSV, and then it goes. I think I must enable async API is what it is. That might have been what it was. I don't know where that is. So it's one of those things. I'm going to have to look in this a little bit more. But let me just find out for Prabhat. Maybe put a comment at the end of the tip as to how to get this in there. And then we'll go from there. Okay? So anyway, folks, that's it for now. Apologies on that last little bit that, you know, wasn't that clear. But we'll I'll try and get some answers. Like I said, the tips itself are on our blog page. If you go to the marksgroup.net, this is our blog page here. You can always go here. I'm going to navigate to the top. You can always go to the marksgroup.net, go to our resources or CRM blog. And we did just recently change things to actually add in the categories on the side. I'm careful to add in the tips or the categories for each of our tips. So if you go to just Salesforce directly on the right, you're going to see all the tips just for Salesforce. Okay, you can even search them as well. This is last month's tips, validation rules, things like that. So there's a good amount in here, and I want you to feel free and feel comfortable using those. But that's something we did to the page recently to kind of help you out. I'll throw in a comment in here when I go there and get this one in there to say, how do I get it out? All right, there we go. Thanks, folks. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.